guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. So as you can see, once again, we're back outside. It's actually raining a little bit on me and we've got some thunder going on overhead. We are somewhere in North Idaho. I'm gonna keep this spot a secret, I think, but if you wanna know, send me a message, leave a comment, maybe I'll tell you. But this place, as you can see, is really pretty. If you're from the area, let me know if you know where this is. I'd be curious to see. We've got a little bit of a thunderstorm going on, so that'll be interesting. But today, I want to talk about this heartbreaking book. So I thought I'd do a little review on The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. This book broke my heart, and I have never cried so many times over a book. Many books have made me cry, but usually once or twice. This had me crying on page 3. And about 10 times after that, and then a big bawling fest at the end. So, very emotional book. Did I like it? Did I not? Will I see the movie? I'll let you know. So, I'm gonna break this up into 2 parts. First part of the video will be spoiler free, so you can continue to watch from here. Don't even worry about it. And then the second half, I will let you know when to cut off. I'm gonna jump into spoilers. So, that way, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, you can hear a little bit about my experience with the book and how much I loved it. So go ahead, get your tea. I got mine. I'm drinking the Good Earth sweet and spicy tea today. It tastes like a cinnamon roll. It's pretty magic. I went with warm because it's stormy today. So get your tea or your coffee or soda, whatever you want, and join me and let's talk about it. All right, let's go. I'm going to do this review in 2 parts just to make it a little bit easier if you haven't read the book before. The first half of this review will contain no spoilers whatsoever. It'll just be kind of a general my experience reading it. The second part, oh, a little bit of thunder. The second part will be full of spoilers, so I will be sure to let you know exactly when to cut it off if you haven't read the book or seen the movie or whatever. Okay, so if you've never read the book, first of all, we'll start off with a brief summary. A lot of people already know what it's about, but The Art of Racing in the Rain is from the perspective of the dog that's in the story, so it makes it a little bit unique. And there's a few things out there already from the perspective of dogs or animals. I was a little bit partial to it because Homeward Bound was my favorite movie growing up, so I loved that already. I know some people are turned off by the fact that it's from the perspective of a dog. I was recommended to read this book by a couple of my friends who I now hold a grudge against because of the emotional turmoil they put me through with this book. And shout out to Emily on that one. Thanks. Basically, the book follows this dog's story of his life. It starts out, he is on the eve of his death, and he recounts his whole entire life. So it's already heart-wrenching. I mean, I was sobbing on page 3. So it's definitely an emotional one. Like, don't read this if you gotta be somewhere later in the day. But I loved it. It was a great story, very beautiful story, honestly. But you get to learn not only the dog's story, but the family's story. You learn a little bit about all of them, his owner's wife, and their child, and some other family members that come into play. So the story is very multi-layered in the way that not only are you getting, the dog's story and his life and his perspective, but you're getting the life and story of all of the other characters involved from the perspective of the dog. So what Garth Stein does really well is getting you to align your feelings with the dog. So when Eve is introduced, who becomes the main character, Denny's wife, he doesn't really like her at first, and so I didn't really like her at first, and it took some growing on me before I realized, like, she's okay, she's a good person, she's a good character, I can like her. And that's exactly what Enzo, the dog, goes through. And so I thought it was really interesting that he was able to toy with the emotions that way and bring that into play. So another aspect of the book that's really interesting is how it interweaves racing with just life stories. And so I'm not somebody that was interested in racing of any kind, especially car racing, but it was actually really interesting, all the metaphors that came from racing in life. And my favorite quote in the story that's repeated over and over is actually that the car goes where the eye goes, and that's a really good metaphor for life, I think, And so that's kind of the spirit of the whole story. So before I get into some of the spoiler things, I just want to leave you with, if you have not read it, read it, bring some tissues. I have never had a book make me cry as much as this one did. So definitely give it a go. I think it's a great read. It's simple and it goes very fast for sure. I could see anybody from probably 9th grade on reading this comfortably. There are some more mature topics and subjects explored in here, a little language as well. So I'd say like 9th grade and on would probably be comfortable with this, but it was great. Like, I typically don't read young adult novels or anything like that, and so I would recommend this for all adults anywhere. If you don't like to read, this is actually a really good one. Okay, so now if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't read it or seen the movie, go ahead and stop here if you don't want to be spoiled, because now I'm going to start talking about some things that will give everything away. Okay, so now we're going to talk about all the details of the book that would spoil it, basically. So if you have read it, if you've seen the movie, if you don't care about being spoiled, then welcome. Here we go. Basically, like I said in the beginning, I'm not somebody that really tears books apart. I will just tell you whether or not I enjoyed my time reading it. So I enjoyed reading it. It went fast. I loved it. There are a few things that, from an English major perspective, I've studied a lot of books and things like that. There's a few things that stuck out to me or threw me out of the book, and I'll share some of those things with you as far as nitpicking kind of things. But as a whole, my general review is going to stay positive. So one of the things I disliked was actually not even part of the story. It was part of the story, but the jacket of the book and the summary of it gave away Eve's death, and I didn't like that. I wish that I had come upon that on my own. And so that was one of my major complaints, because it felt like such a turning point to the story, and I would have liked to have gotten there on my own, because the reader is just as confused as Enzo, because it's all that they know. So when he doesn't know what's going on, we get these little tidbits of details as time goes on, and we learn, okay, he knows that there's something wrong with her brain. He knows that something's not right, and then, okay, there's a mass in the brain, and then, oh, it's brain cancer. And so, I loved getting fed those little bits, but ultimately I knew that it was leading to her death, so I didn't have any hope for her. So that's something I would have left out myself, or wish that I hadn't read that part, because I loved the idea of just coming upon that and being completely heartbroken out of the blue. That would have been great. But again, that's a small nitpicky thing. My second little thing that threw me out, I think, was just the amount of racing detail. I know that's a huge component to the book, and racing is a key topic. And one of the ways that I learned to write when I was doing creative writing was to pick a topic that has a lot of little details that people might not know about and interweave it with a narrative of a story. So that's exactly what he's doing here. He's giving you information, almost like textbook information on something, while interweaving a story and using that textbook kind of information to create metaphors for life. So I get what he was doing. There were just times where I almost glazed over, or was like, okay, let's speed through the racing info. I want to get back to the story. That's probably just a personal opinion at that point. If you are really into racing or interested in it, I think that part of it would have been more enjoyable. But as far as me, somebody who has no interest in racing, it piqued my interest a little bit. There were things that I thought, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that about racing. So I found that cool, but it's something that I kind of wanted to glaze over a little bit sometimes, especially the chapters where it went a little bit more at length. So that was, again, it's a nitpicky thing. It's completely personal preference. I get why it was necessary to have it in there. I think there was just almost a little too much for me, too heavily on it. But overall, I know that's kind of the topic on it, so it makes sense that it's there. We still doing good? Oh, there's sap all over my butt. I sat in sap.
No.
My butt's so sticky. My third and final thing is very nitpicky. This is super, super nitpicky. And maybe a little pretentious, I don't know. But that's okay. I'm an English major, that's what we do, right? We're pretentious, everybody knows that. The last name Swift, I get it, it's cute. Was it necessary? Swift, race car driver, drives swiftly. When you start getting into the world of more literature style writing, you typically want to be a little bit more, what's the word? You want to be, typically with names in the writing world, you want to be a little bit more subtle than something like that, just because it is jarring. Unless it's targeted at a younger audience, then those kind of things are fun to unravel. I loved this book to pieces, even though I also really hated it for the way that it made me feel. The dog has to die. Of course, that's the story, that anytime there's animals, they are too pure for this world and they must die, which is unfortunate. And that is just kind of the way that these books go. But it does leave you with hope at the end when we get to meet the little boy, Enzo. And I loved that little piece. Of course, it was a little cheesy, little, cliche in that way as well. But I think this book was so sad that it really needed that cheesy classic ending. So I liked that. I was okay with that. All in all, I really liked the book. I think it will always hold a special place in my heart now that it has broken my heart a million times. I actually had to set the book down and just sob for like a good 15 minutes after the last chapter before the epilogue. So it's definitely a special book. It was a painful one. I don't know that I would read it again because of how much it injured my soul, but it was really good. Okay, and as for whether or not I will see the movie, I think I will. I'm always weird about seeing movies of books that I love, but they seem to cast it well, I think. Milo plays Denny, and he's always been an actor that I've loved, so I think that'll be cool. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to see it and bawl my eyes out all over again, because I definitely will. So I think I will watch it in the privacy of my own home instead of the movie theater. But yeah, I think I'll see the movie. I think this is one I would check out. If you enjoyed my take on the book, I know I'm not the best critic because I just enjoy books. I'm not much of a critic. So if I didn't enjoy a book, I wouldn't even read the whole thing. This one clearly got me to the end. So great book, great option. If you have read it, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, let me know down below whether you think you will or won't after this. If you've seen the movie, let me know. Tell me whether or not I should go see it or if it's going to ruin everything for me. I'd love to know. And be sure to subscribe so that you know when I'm posting, and turn on the notifications for every Tuesday when I post a video. It'll let you know when I get it up there, and we'll have some more coming at you. All right, bye. Now we're rolling.